How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Patriot DIY channel. Today is a day that we've been waiting for a very long time. You guys might remember 2 years ago I built my basic miter station, but in that video I told you guys that I was going to be filming a part 2 and we were going to add cabinets and drawers to the workbench. Well, today is the day that we finally turned my miter station from this into this. Let's check it out. All right, guys, now first I just want to apologize for taking so long to get to this. Life's been crazy and I've had plenty of other projects to keep me busy, but today we're finally going to finish part 2 of the miter station build. Now the miter station is great the way it is. It's very sturdy. I love the size of it. I love the T-track inlay, but as you can see behind me, it has just become a mess. I've got a ton of stuff piled up underneath it and on top of it, and I desperately need to get this organized. So we're going to be building some cabinets and drawer boxes to fit inside of this workbench and make it a lot more functional. Now, of course, I will be making plans for this upgraded version of the workbench, and for those of you that have already built the basic workbench, you should be able to pick right up where you left off. But before we get into all that, guys, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. Now let's finally get this miter station finished up. I'm going to start by cutting down on my cabinet box components, first at the track saw, and then I'll take those over to the table saw to cut them down to their final size. Each cabinet is going to have 2 sides, a bottom, a couple dividers, and then some top nailers. All right, guys, so one thing we have to consider here on the right side of our miter bench is that we have our dust collection pipe going here routed underneath the bench. So the way we're going to get around this is we're just going to notch it out and we're going to kind of build our cabinet around the dust collection back there. This also means that our top drawers here have to be a little bit shallower. So just keep that in mind, but obviously if you have your dust collection routed differently, you can skip those extra steps. Now I'm going to drill some pocket holes into each end of those nailer strips, as well as the bottom side of our bottom panels. Once all of my components are cut to size, I'm going to give everything a good sanding with some 120 grit sandpaper. Now I'm ready to start assembling these cabinet boxes. So first I'm going to apply a little wood glue. Then I'm going to stand up the sides and bottom at the workbench and clamp them in place. I'm also using some corner clamps here to help make sure I keep everything nice and square while I fasten them together with 1 1/4" pocket hole screws. Once I have the first side on, I'm going to go over and follow the same process with the other side. Now, this first cabinet is going to have a middle divider, so I've used some scrap wood here to create a couple spacers to help me make sure I get this divider put exactly where I want it. Then I'm going to clamp it in place and flip the cabinet box over so I can secure it from the bottom with screws. Once that's done, I'm going to take the whole assembly down to the floor and start installing these nailers. These fit just inside of our side panels. I'm going to clamp those in place and fasten them with pocket hole screws. It's also going to be fastened to that middle divider through the top of the nailer to help secure it in place. Now, since I have this cutout on the back of my cabinet, I did have one extra nailer here that I had to put in. Once that's done, I'm going back over to the table saw to cut down my 1/4 inch plywood for the back panels. Just drop those back panels into place and secure it with brad nails. And with that, our first cabinet box is done. Before we insert the cabinet box we just built, we do need to add an extra support here in the bottom of the workbench. So to do that, we just cut an 18-inch 2x4, put some pocket holes in it, and we're gonna just butt that up against this end piece and drop it in right there, and that'll give us the extra support we need on the end. It'll also close up any gaps that you may have right there. So I'm going to go ahead and install this extra support before sliding my cabinet into place. This was a pretty tight fit, but with a little extra persuasion, I was able to get it in there. So I'm going to slide this in until I have it 3/4 of an inch back from the sides of my workbench. That way when I put the face frames on, everything will be nice and flat on the front. Now I'm going to have some top drawers here in these cabinets, and I almost forgot to add these drawer dividers, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I use a couple pieces of scrap wood as spacers and fasten it with pocket screws from underneath. With the cabinet exactly where I want it, I can go ahead and secure it to the workbench with cabinet screws. I'm going to drive a few into the sides and some up into the supports under the top of the workbench. With the right side cabinets finished, I'm ready to turn my attention to the left side of the workbench. I have a couple more cabinet boxes to build here, and to assemble those, I'm going to follow the same process that I used on the other cabinet. The first one I'm going to build here is going to be a bank of 5 medium-sized drawers that's going to go just to the left of the miter saw. The next one is going to be a larger box with 2 32-inch cabinets and 2 long drawers. With all 3 of my cabinet boxes complete, I'm ready to start working on the drawer components. So I'm going to start cutting out the front, back, and sides of my drawer boxes over the table saw. Then I'm going to take those over to the miter saw to cut them down to their final length. Now for the front and back of the drawer boxes, I found the easiest way to get the width of these exactly what I need them to be. I'm going to set the stop block on my miter station to the total width, and then I'm going to add 2 scrap pieces of my 1/2 inch plywood. So once the drawer is assembled, I should get the perfect width. Then I'll rip down the drawer bottoms over at the table saw, and all the components for these drawers are going to be made out of 1/2 inch plywood. Then I'll take the fronts and backs of our drawer boxes over to the Craig 720 Pro and drill pocket holes into each end. And now I'm ready to start assembling those drawer boxes. So I'll lay out the components on the workbench and assemble them with glue and 1-inch pocket hole screws. This is a nice easy way to construct drawer boxes, and you still end up with a nice clean look because these pocket holes will be covered up by your drawer faces. Once the box is complete, I'll add a little wood glue along the bottom edge before setting the bottom panel in place and securing it with brad nails. And that's a nice, easy to build, very sturdy drawer. Now I have a lot of these to build, and I'm just going to follow that same process for all of them. Now I'm going to go back over to the cabinet that's going to house that bank of 5 drawers and start installing those drawer slides. I've already determined the spacing that I need, so I'm just going to use some scrap wood as spacers to help make sure everything's exactly where I want it and nice and level. I'm starting with the bottom drawer here, so once those slides are in place, I'm going to slide that drawer in and then pull it back out slightly and start securing the drawer slides to the drawer itself. Pulling it out a little bit at a time to make sure it stays nice and straight. Once that first drawer is in, again, I'm just going to use scrap wood as spacers for the placement of the remaining drawer slides and drawers. And I'll just work my way up until all 5 drawers are installed. Then I'll install my longer top drawers in the other cabinets in the same way. In the bottom of these cabinets, I've decided instead of traditional shelves, I'm going to build sliding shelves. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and install some drawer slides down here. Again, using scrap wood as spacers to make sure I get those measurements just right and everything stays nice and level. Then I need to construct the sliding shelf itself. This is going to be pretty simple. It's just going to be made up of 1 large panel and 3 1.5 inch strips on the sides and back. Those are going to be fastened to that bottom panel with glue, brad nails, and wood screws. Then I'll go back and separate those drawer slides from inside the cabinet and go ahead and install those on the side here, just using the top of my workbench as a reference point. Then I'm just going to measure and mark a location here in the front of the shelf and drill a 1-inch hole to use as a finger pull. With that, the sliding shelves are complete and we can go back and install them into the cabinet. Now it's time to finish up those other 2 cabinet boxes by installing the back panels and then go slide those into the workbench. Again, I'm sliding these in so that they're 3/4 of an inch back from the legs of the workbench. That's going to allow the perfect spacing for my drawer faces later. I will admit trying to fit these two cabinets in side by side was a challenge, but I did eventually get it in there, and now I can go back and reinstall those drawers. With all those drawers installed, now I'm ready to cut out my drawer faces. For that, I'm going to be using some 3/4 inch birch plywood, and I'm going to rip those down at the table saw, then cut them to their final length at the miter saw. Now before I install these, I'm going to go ahead and measure and mark and pre-drill the location for my drawer pulls. Now I'm ready to start installing those drawer faces. I decided to go with 1/4 inch spacing between all of my faces. So I'm using 1/4 inch spacers here at the top and sides to make sure this is going to land exactly where I want it. Then I secure it to the drawer box with screws through those pre-drilled holes. Then I can open the drawer up and secure it permanently from the inside with 1-inch screws. Then I can remove those outside screws and install my drawer pulls. I'm going to follow that same process for all of my drawer faces. And again, I'm using 1/4 inch spacers all the way around to make sure I get the proper spacing. Now I'm ready to start ripping down those cabinet doors. And for those, I'm using that same 3/4 inch birch plywood and cutting those down at the table saw. For my cabinets, I've decided to use some European style concealed hinges, and this Craig hinge jig works great for installing it. You just use the integrated ruler to get the placing exactly where you want it, and use the provided bit and jig similar to a drill press to make sure you get that hole perfect. It also has pilot holes here to help you pre-drill for your hinge hardware. Then it's as easy as dropping that hinge in place and screwing it to the door. I'm going to follow that same process to install all of my hinges, and I'm also going to pre-install the drawer pulls on the front of each door. I just followed the manufacturer instructions for installing the other half of the hinge. And once you've done that, it's as easy as just snapping this in place. And before I forget to mention it, these are half overlay frameless soft close hinges. All right guys, now we're almost done with this build and everything is looking great, but we did run into an issue right here. So you'll notice with this door open, the door is blocking my sliding shelves here. It won't allow it to open because it's hitting the door. Just a small design error, so pretty easy fix. All we're gonna do is we're gonna take these shelves out and we're gonna add some spacers here between the sidewalls of the cabinet and our drawer slides. We're also gonna have to cut down the size of the shelf to make that fit. But we'll get that done and then we shouldn't have any issues. All right guys, we're almost finished. The last thing we need to do is this area right here. This is the smaller cabinet just to the right of the miter saw. Now you could obviously put drawers here if you want to, but what I think I'm gonna do is I have this small trash can here that I keep a lot of my offcuts from the miter saw. I just kind of toss them down in here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a pull out for this trash can. We're just gonna have it right here where we can easily pull it out, throw our offcuts in, and then close it back up. I'm going to be using the circle cutting jig with my router to cut out the hole for this trash can. Aside from that, this is going to be assembled very similar to a drawer box, but instead of a bottom, it just has a top. I'm also going to go ahead and separate these drawer slides and pre-install these over here at the workbench. Now I'm just going to test fit it to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to, and then install the drawer front. With that, our ultimate miter station is finished, and I can't tell you how happy I am to finally have these cabinets and drawers finished, and man, I think it looks great. All right guys, so now that everything's finished, I know you've seen the construction of the individual pieces, but I just want to go through and kind of give you a little tour of what we have going on here. Here on the left-hand side of the miter bench, we have two nice large drawers here. On this side, cabinets down below that. Now in this one, I'll probably eventually do shelf pins and put a shelf in there, but I do have a couple large tools I want to kind of tuck away in there for now. Here in the next bank of cabinets, I did the pull-out shelves, so that's convenient. You don't have to reach down in there to get to everything, especially since this is pretty low. You want to be able to just pull this out to get to whatever you need to, and that worked out really nice. Of course, we do have soft close hinges on all of this. Moving on down here directly to the left of the saw, we have a bank of 5 different drawers here. That's going to add a whole lot of storage and help me be a lot more organized. Obviously, if you're building this for yourself and you like drawers better than cabinets, you could do drawers all the way down if you wanted to, but I like the combination of both. Now here directly under the miter saw, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to close this in. Obviously, if you want to do that, it's just a couple more cabinet doors you can throw on here. I may end up doing that eventually, but I haven't decided yet. Then moving on down to the right side of the miter saw, I have a small drawer here up top and a pull-out trash can that I'm using for offcuts. So as I'm standing here at the miter saw cutting, anytime I have small offcuts or anything, I can just toss them in there. And then back down here on the other side, I have another one of these large drawers, and then a cabinet again with the pull-out shelves. All right guys, that is it for part 2 of my miter station build. This was a long time coming, and I know a lot of you guys have been waiting to see how I went about doing this. This is actually a great way you can add drawers and cabinets to pretty much any workbench. It definitely has a lot cleaner look, and it's going to allow me to be a lot more organized here in the shop. If you haven't seen the original basic miter station build video, make sure you go and check that out. It has a lot of great features. I love the size of it, and we incorporated that built-in T-track for a stop block that has just been invaluable here in my shop. And of course, if the basic miter station without the cabinets and drawers is more what you're looking for, make sure you go check out that video as well as the build plans, and I'll have those linked in the description below. And of course, as always, guys, if you want to build this miter station for yourself, I will have digital build plans linked in the description below. That's going to include the miter station, the cabinets, drawers, everything, so you can build this exact miter station for yourself. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I am so glad to finally get this done. It looks great, it's functional, it's going to help me be organized, and I hope this helps you guys out as well. Don't forget, I will have links to all the tools we used in this video linked in the description below as well. And if you're interested in getting videos like this early, some behind the scenes content, discounts, and other great stuff for members only, you can join the Patriot DIY crew. There's a link for that in the description. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.